Did you know that Jack Ma, China's most famous entrepreneur, once applied for a job at KFC? Out of 24 applicants, he was the only one rejected. He applied to Harvard University 10 times and was rejected 10 times. Today, he's the founder of Alibaba and one of the world's wealthiest individuals. What secret did Jack Ma possess that prevented all those rejections from stopping him? What hidden force creates the difference between ordinary people and extraordinarily successful ones? Today, I'm going to reveal the deep psychological mystery that 99% of people never discover. By the end of this journey, you'll understand why most people can't even utilize a small fraction of their true potential. But before we dive deep, let me share something that might shock you. The average person uses only 10% of their capabilities, not because they lack talent, resources, or opportunities, but because they've never learned to work with their psychology instead of against it. What you're about to learn isn't just theory. These are battle-tested principles used by the world's most successful individuals, backed by decades of psychological research, and proven in the real world by people who've transformed their lives from ordinary to extraordinary. First secret rule: your relationship with discomfort determines your life's limits. In 1968, Stanford University psychologist Walter Mischel conducted an experiment. He placed a marshmallow in front of 4-year-old children and said, "You can eat it now, or wait 15 minutes and get 2." The results were astounding. The children who waited achieved higher test scores, better relationships, lower addiction rates, and much more successful careers later in life. A single choice determined their entire life trajectory. But this wasn't just about willpower. It was about understanding something profound. The successful children discovered a fundamental truth. Their current emotional state wasn't permanent. Discomfort is temporary. And most importantly, their future self was far more valuable than their present momentary desire. Here's what most people don't realize. Everything you want in life exists on the other side of discomfort. Want better relationships? You'll need to risk vulnerability. Want financial freedom? You'll need to sacrifice immediate pleasures for long-term investments. Want to build something meaningful? You'll need to embrace the uncertainty of creation. The fascinating part is that your brain is wired to seek comfort and avoid pain. It's a survival mechanism that served our ancestors well when facing physical threats. But in today's world, this same mechanism becomes the very thing that limits your potential. Think about the last time you wanted to start something important. Maybe exercise, learn a new skill, or start a business. What happened? The moment discomfort appeared, your brain immediately started generating reasons why you should wait, why it's not the right time, why you're not ready. This is where the 1% separate themselves from the 99%. They've learned to recognize this pattern and developed systems to work with their psychology, not against it. Second secret rule: your brain will always choose the easy path unless you consciously stop it. Imagine Sarah, an intelligent, hardworking woman who genuinely wants to build her own business. Every morning she wakes up with grand plans. She'll create a business plan, contact potential clients, maybe even start that blog she's been thinking about. But then reality hits. A notification pops up on her phone. Social media beckons with the promise of instant entertainment. Her brain, seeking a quick dopamine hit, convinces her that she deserves a little break before starting work. Hours pass, and nothing meaningful gets done. Sound familiar? This isn't a character flaw, it's human nature. Your brain is constantly performing a cost-benefit analysis, and it almost always chooses the path of least resistance. This worked great when we were hunter-gatherers, but in today's world of infinite distractions, it's sabotaging our success. The world's most successful people aren't superhuman. They've simply learned to recognize this pattern and create systems that align with their psychology rather than fight against it. They use what I call environmental design, structuring their surroundings to make good choices easier and bad choices harder. They remove temptations, create accountability systems, and design their days to minimize decision fatigue. Warren Buffett, for example, deliberately keeps his schedule simple and avoids most meetings. Not because he's antisocial, but because he understands that every decision depletes mental energy that could be better used elsewhere. Third secret rule: clarity of vision creates unstoppable momentum. Most people spend their entire lives without asking one crucial question: what do I actually want? I'm not talking about superficial desires like money or fame. I'm talking about the deeper questions. What kind of person do I want to become? What kind of life do I want to create? What kind of legacy do I want to leave? When you have crystal clear vision of what you want to build, something magical happens. Your brain starts noticing opportunities that were always there but previously invisible. Psychologists call this the reticular activating system, your brain's filtering mechanism that determines what you pay attention to. Have you ever noticed how after you decide to buy a particular car, you suddenly see that car everywhere? It's not that there are more of those cars on the road. Your brain is now programmed to notice them. The same principle applies to opportunities. When you're clear about your destination, your brain becomes a heat-seeking missile for relevant information, connections, and possibilities. But here's the challenge. Most people are afraid to get specific about what they want because specificity requires commitment, and commitment means saying no to other options. They'd rather keep their options open, not realizing that this very strategy keeps them stuck in mediocrity. Fourth secret rule: success isn't about getting what you want. It's about wanting what success requires. Let me tell you about Marcus. He wanted nothing more than to be a successful entrepreneur. He read every business book, attended seminars, and constantly talked about his big ideas. But when it came time to actually start, he always found excuses. The truth was, Marcus loved the idea of being an entrepreneur more than he loved the reality of entrepreneurship. He wanted the results without embracing the process. Real success requires sacrifice. It requires saying no to good opportunities so you can say yes to great ones. It requires disappointing some people in the short term so you can serve others in the long term. This is why most people never achieve their goals. They want the destination, but not the journey. They want the body, but not the workouts. They want the business, but not the failures. They want the relationship, but not the vulnerability. The 1% understand that you don't get what you want, you get what you're willing to work for. And more importantly, you get what you're willing to become. Success isn't a destination you arrive at, it's a person you become along the way. Fifth secret rule: meaning comes from struggle, not comfort. Think about the most meaningful experiences of your life. Chances are they involved overcoming some kind of challenge. Maybe graduating from school, building a relationship, starting a family, or achieving a difficult goal. Yet our culture has convinced us that the goal should be to eliminate all struggle from life. But this is backwards. Happiness comes from growth. Growth comes from challenge. Challenge comes from stepping outside your comfort zone. This is why lottery winners often report being less happy than before they won. They got comfort without the growth that makes comfort meaningful. The most fulfilled people aren't those with the easiest lives. They're those who've learned to find meaning in their struggles. They understand that the goal isn't to eliminate problems, but to have better problems. Problems that stretch you, problems that force you to become more than you currently are. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and renowned psychologist, put it perfectly. What man actually needs is not a tensionless state, but rather the striving and struggling for a worthwhile goal. Sixth secret rule: Commitment is more powerful than confidence. Among the most successful people I've studied, most don't feel confident most of the time. Confidence isn't what drives them. Something more powerful does. Commitment. Confidence says, I know I can do this. Commitment says, I'll figure out how to do this no matter what. Confidence is feeling dependent. Some days you feel confident, some days you don't. Commitment is decision dependent. You make a decision once, then honor that decision, regardless of how you feel. This is why successful people can perform even when they don't feel like it. They've learned to act based on their commitments, not their emotions. Think about it. Do you think Olympic athletes feel motivated every single day? Of course not, but they show up anyway because they're committed to something bigger than their momentary feelings. The difference between professionals and amateurs isn't talent. It's that professionals have systems and amateurs have goals. Professionals show up regardless of how they feel. Amateurs only show up when they feel like it. 7th secret rule. Your problems are proportional to your potential. Small problems indicate small thinking. Big problems indicate big thinking. No problems indicate no thinking at all. The goal isn't to eliminate problems from your life. The goal is to have better problems. Problems that expand you. Problems that require you to become more than you currently are. Most people spend their energy trying to avoid problems, not realizing that their capacity to handle problems. Jeff Bezos built Amazon by consistently taking on bigger and more complex problems. Each problem he solved prepared him for the next level. The problems didn't get easier, he got stronger. Here's a reframe that changed everything for me. Problems aren't obstacles to your success, they're the path to your success. Every problem you solve increases your capacity to serve others, which is ultimately what success is about. 8th secret rule. Success depends more on what you don't do than what you do. Most people think success means adding things to their life. More skills, more connections, more assets, more opportunities. But the real secret is subtraction, not addition. Success is about eliminating everything that doesn't align with your highest priorities. It's about saying no to good things so you can say yes to great things. Warren Buffett, one of history's most successful investors, attributes most of his success to this principle. He doesn't try to be good at everything. He focuses on being exceptional at a few things. Steve Jobs revolutionized Apple not by adding features, but by removing them. He understood that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. This principle applies to every area of life. The most successful people aren't those who do the most things. They're those who do the most important things and eliminate everything else. 9th secret rule. Depth always beats breadth. It's better to be world-class at one thing than merely good at 10 things. It's better to have one extraordinary relationship than 10 shallow ones. It's better to create one meaningful project than to start 10 you never finish. We live in a culture that celebrates multitasking and being well-rounded, but this is a recipe for mediocrity. Depth creates value. Breadth creates confusion. The most successful people go deep. They become so good at what they do that they can't be ignored. They understand that in a world of infinite options, depth is the only way to stand out. Cal Newport calls this deep work, the ability to focus without distraction on cognitively demanding tasks. It's becoming increasingly rare and therefore increasingly valuable. 10th secret rule. Success is an iceberg. We live in a culture that worships overnight success stories, but these stories don't tell you what happens beneath the surface. There's no such thing as overnight success. What appears to be sudden success is usually the result of years or even decades of invisible preparation. Every expert was once a beginner. What we see is the tip of the iceberg, supported by massive unseen effort beneath the surface. Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000-hour rule isn't just about time, it's about deliberate practice. It's about consistently working on your craft, even when no one is watching, even when you're not getting recognition, even when you're not seeing immediate results. The Beatles performed live over 1,200 times before they became famous. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Steven Spielberg was rejected from USC Film School 3 times. Success isn't about avoiding failure. It's about failing forward faster than everyone else. 11th secret rule: your life is the sum of your daily choices. You don't decide your future in one dramatic moment. You decide it in thousands of small moments every day. The quality of your decisions determines the quality of your outcomes. But here's what's both challenging and empowering. You always have the power to choose differently. Every morning you wake up with a clean slate. Yesterday's choices brought you to today, but today's choices will determine tomorrow. The most successful people understand this deeply. They don't rely on motivation, they rely on systems. They create routines that make good choices automatic and bad choices difficult. They understand that success isn't what you do occasionally, it's what you do consistently. 12th and final secret rule: you are not your story. You are the author of your story. Most people are living far below their potential, not because they lack talent or opportunity, but because they've accepted a story about themselves that isn't true. Maybe you've convinced yourself you're not creative. Maybe you believe you're bad with money. Maybe you think you're not leadership material. These stories feel true because you've been telling them to yourself for so long. But they're not facts about reality. They're interpretations of experience. And interpretations can be changed. Every day you have the opportunity to write a new chapter. Every moment you can choose to act in alignment with who you want to become rather than who you used to be. The most powerful question you can ask yourself isn't, "What happened to me?" but "What am I going to do about it?" Finally, dream like Jack Ma, but act in reality. When Jack Ma was rejected 12 times by Harvard, when he was the only rejected candidate at KFC, did he give up? No, because he understood a fundamental truth. Failure isn't the opposite of success. Failure is part of success. He knew that today is hard, tomorrow will be worse, but the day after tomorrow will be sunshine. But most people give up tomorrow night. You have a choice in front of you. You can continue following the same patterns that created your current results. Or you can start applying these secret rules and see what becomes possible. The choice is yours, but remember, not choosing is also a choice. Staying where you are is also a decision. But growth is also an option. Transformation is also an option. Becoming the person you have the potential to be is also an option. The secret psychology of success isn't really a secret. Researchers have documented it, achievers have demonstrated it, and it's available to anyone willing to look beneath the surface of conventional wisdom. The real question isn't whether these principles work. The question is whether you'll work with these principles. Your potential is waiting. The question now is what you'll do with what you know. Your journey toward your full potential begins with a single step, and that step is available to you right now, in this moment. The choice is yours. Your future self is counting on the decision you make today. What will it be? Dare to be bigger than your circumstances. Transform rejection into inspiration like Jack Ma. And remember, your story is still being written.